This week on the College Football Roundup, Clemson gets their groove back, Michigan wins again, upsets abound, and so much more. This is the Monday Report, starting now. All right, hello everybody. It is Monday, October 6th, 2025, and this is the Monday Report. I'm your host, H. James K., and today we've got a absolutely wild show. It was an insane week of college football. First off, we're going to talk about Clemson getting a win, then we're going to talk about the unbelievable upsets we had, and then we'll move on to Michigan versus Wisconsin. And then finally, we will wrap it up with a quick look at multiple games that are coming up next week. All right, to get us started, Clemson absolutely thrashed North Carolina. They defeated the Tar Heels by a score of 38-10. Cade Klubnik threw for 254 yards and 4 touchdowns. Wide receiver TJ Moore had a 75-yard touchdown reception. North Carolina only had 57 yards rushing. And I think that's the story of the game. Once again, North Carolina under Bill Belichick wasn't physical enough. And we're going to talk about Clemson first, though, but I just got to get that out of the way. North Carolina just isn't a serious football team. Now, for Clemson, boy, oh boy, did they need this one. If this game had been even like a 38-37 win, or it had been like a 24-21 win, it would have been like, yay, they won, but still. No. They needed to absolutely dominate North Carolina, and they did. Dabo Swinney had them prepared for the game. They came out swinging, and they dominated. I mean, 38-10, what else do you need to know? And as with every other North Carolina games, they absolutely pushed North Carolina around in the trenches. They harassed the QB. They contained the run game. It's just North Carolina under Bill Belichick has been an absolute flop. It's a failure. And it's a failure that's going to last one singular season, and then he's going to retire. And that's going to leave North Carolina in an absolutely disastrous position because they're not really recruiting well, and the team's a freaking train wreck. So, the North Carolina Bill Belichick experience has failed. The experiment is an absolute failure, and I'm a little loud. Let's turn that down. Turn that down a little bit. There we go. It was good to see Clemson get a win. The fans deserve a win. Dabo desperately needed a win. They needed to come out and just execute the game plan, get in, get out with anything seriously major happening, and that's exactly what they did. I'm happy for Clemson. Moving on. Holy upsets, Batman. Oh my God. Sorry for slurping. That's on me. Needed a drink of water. I was absolutely screaming my head off at the Michigan game, so I'm a little hoarse. Anyway, to start us off with all the upsets, Florida. I gotta give credit. What I'm about to say, I got this from Matt Be Great on YouTube. He's great. Check him out after you're finished checking out my channel, please and thank you. But he said that this is Billy Napier's annual "You Can't Fire Me" football game. The annual game where Florida comes out and absolutely embarrasses somebody who should have beat them, and he reminds everyone, you can't fire me. Look at these results we're having. Yeah, Matt Be Great said that, and it's absolutely true. This game happened last year. I'm pretty sure it was LSU last year. And once again, Florida came out and beat someone they probably should have beaten. Well, at least that's what we thought. Florida, when the run game is working, Florida's offense is humming. DJ Lagway was able to operate off of play action. The ground game was just good. And the defense did what they needed to do to absolutely embarrass Arch Manning. Arch Manning is not a serious quarterback. He is Man, I am so hoarse today. I am sorry. I probably sound like crap. Anyway, Arch Manning, maybe he'll turn into a great quarterback. Maybe. For right now, he's mid. Because unlike Bryce Underwood, where Bryce Underwood, the stats aren't what you'd want from a number one uber quarterback, but every week you're seeing steady improvements. More of the offense, reading the field, going through progressions, handling the offense. Arch Manning, unless he's playing the Little Sisters of the Poor or the Cleveland, Ohio YMCA, he's just not a good, effective QB. He doesn't read his progressions. He doesn't manage the offense. He takes a long time to go through reads. He has abysmal footwork, and his throwing motion is just all over the place. He's got physical tools, but that only gets you so far. You can use physical tools to dominate in, Division AA high school football or whatever, Division II high school football. That's one thing. You can't do that in the SEC. You can't do that in major college football. Like Denard Robinson was a Greek god against scrubs. But against real teams with real coaches, he was disappointing because he wasn't a serious quarterback. He was a physical talent who could perform against low-skill opponents. Arch Manning isn't quite that bad, but he doesn't rise to the occasion. He doesn't have the skills or the maturity. And this is a guy who's been at Texas for a while. He isn't some hotshot 18 years and 2 months freshman. He's been there. I'm pretty sure he's like a redshirt sophomore. So for Arch Manning, it's one of these things where you can't fix him this year. He is what he is. Next year you can fix him going into next season. But for this year, Texas is just stuck with him. Now moving back to the winners, DJ Lagway played a good game. Good, efficient, clean, did what he was supposed to do, handled the offense, just steady. And that's exactly what you want from a winning quarterback, because everyone says, oh, I want the guy who can throw like 75 yards and blah, 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 blah. No, you know what I want? I want you to complete 72% of your throws, throw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, not turn the ball over, and keep the offense on schedule. That's all you need. If you're a team like Florida who wants to run the ball, that is all you need. Yeah, the flash is great, and who doesn't love throwing for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns? But at the end of the day, if you can get 200 yards, 72% completion percentage, and like 1 or 2 touchdowns, that's excellent. That's exactly what you want. Manage the offense. Everyone says that being a game manager is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Being a game manager is exactly what you want a QB to be. And DJ Lagway managed the offense. He made plays. He helped the offense stay on schedule. He didn't turn the ball over. That's all you need him to be. The games like LSU where it's like, no, you're just going to need to keep throwing because we can't run. Yeah, you can't ask him to do that. He's not that guy. There are very few quarterbacks who are that guy. Like, there's Drew Brees and Joe Burrow and freaking Bryce Young when he was in college. You can ask them to do that. Baker Mayfield, you can ask him to be that guy. DJ Lagway is not that guy. He's just not. So this is exactly what Florida needs to do to succeed in 2025. Run the ball, manage the offense, don't try to be flashy, because you're not. That's not Florida this year. They're just not flashy. Now, don't let this fool you. Billy Napier, I still do not believe he is the man for the job at Florida. He is still going to disappoint. Don't let this poison you from understanding that he's not the guy. Yeah, the warm fuzzies from this win feel good. But unless he keeps winning, remember the problems this team has. So, keep your eye on the prize, guys, because Billy Napier is going to disappoint Florida fans again. He is going to. It's in his nature. He's a guy who falls short. They say he's a nice guy. I like the guy, but like Brady Hoke, some guys just aren't up to it. And I don't think he's up to it at Florida. So yeah, don't let this win cloud the judgment of he's going to get fired because there ain't no way they're going to win out in the rest of that schedule. There ain't no way. So, and before I forget, the score may make the game look like it was close. The score was like 29-22 or 28-22. It was like 28-11 for a long time. So don't be fooled by the final score. The Texas game was never close. Florida controlled that game the whole way. All right, moving on from Florida, Iowa State fell to Cincinnati. To be honest with you, I know almost nothing about this game, but I had to mention it because, Cincinnati's okay, but they're not Iowa State. Iowa State was my freaking pick for the Big 12. And Brendan Sorsby had 214 through the air and 2 touchdowns, adding on 64 yards rushing and a touchdown on the ground. That's everything you want from Brendan Sorsby. Dude's a freak athlete. He ran all over Nebraska, but sadly the rest of his offense couldn't help him. Today, he helped him. The final score was like 38-35, I think. Let me look that up for you right now. Let's look that up. Oh, another thing while I'm doing this. Cincinnati was up 31-7 in the first half before Iowa State made it close in the second half. So, once again, don't let the final score fool you. Iowa State was out of there. 38-30 was the final score. 38-30. I apologize. So, that game was never close. Iowa State made a late charge, but come on. It was 31-7. That game was over. And now, the game that everyone is talking about. Bruins. If there are any of you out there, Bruins fans, celebrate. Throw a party. You beat Penn State. Oh my God. The UCLA Bruins defeated Penn State. Oh my. So I watched a good chunk of this game. This game was happening while my father and while we were all driving home from the Michigan game. And I just was checking the scores and I was like, huh? UCLA is up like 17. I was like, UCLA is up 10-0. What? UCLA is up 17-7. What? 20. What? And it was like, so we were listening to it on Sirius in the car, and then we put on the third and fourth quarter when we got home, and it's just like, holy crap, man. God, I put too much ice in my water. It's rattling all over the place. You can probably hear it on the mic, and my cup is sweating. Either way, iced water is delicious. And yeah, I said delicious. And UCLA, man, I'm so happy for Bruins fans. I know what it feels like when you have a crazy ass upset where you're like, how did that freaking happen? We had no business winning this game. Michigan was like that against Ohio State last year. I mean, yeah, it's a rivalry, but Michigan was a 21.5 point dog. 21.5. They were expecting Michigan to lose like 42-12. And yet, at the end of the day, Michigan won. Because any given Saturday, crazy shit can happen. Now, for UCLA, Jerry Neuheisel, son of Rick Neuheisel, brand new offensive play caller. I think, ladies and gentlemen, UCLA has got a new offensive coordinator. That kid called an absolutely brilliant game. He did everything right, other than one singular fourth down play, which I hated the play call. But still, other than that singular play, their offense was humming. Now that defense for UCLA, still bad. Still bad. But that UCLA offense, they ran all over Penn State, up and down the field. Nico Iamaleava had like 166 yards through the air and 128 on the ground. He had like 4 total touchdowns. Dude was balling. He was balling out of his damn mind. And this is a guy who'd played like straight garbage all year. Yeah. UCLA's offense, absolutely, they never trailed. They punted one time in the entire game. This is a UCLA team that hadn't led a game in their previous 4 games the entire season. And they never trailed against Penn State. There were like 27 people in the stadium, and half of them were probably Penn State fans who live in LA. And yet UCLA won the game. Jerry Neuheisel, Nico Iamaleava, kudos to you. What was his name? Not Tim Lester. God, I'm going to have to look up his name. Their interim head coach. Tim something. UCLA. I'm Googling it on my phone. UCLA football coach is currently Tim Skipper. Coach Skipper, if you even win half of the remaining games for UCLA, you're going to be the new head coach of the UCLA Bruins, because that win over Penn State was huge for the program. Yeah, Penn State might not be great, and I'll talk about Penn State in a sec. They might not be great, but UCLA was there to die. They were there to show up and get slaughtered and go home. That was what they were, the get-right game for Penn State after they dropped the game against Oregon. That was all UCLA was there to do. They were there to roll over and die and help Penn State pad some stats so they can get back up in the rankings and look good. And instead, they absolutely shocked those Nittany Lions. And that's because the head coach got them refocused, energized, and ready to play. Good head coaching. Which makes you wonder, was this team better than its record this year and last year when Deshaun Foster was the head coach and he was such a bad coach that it just didn't matter? Because there are times like that where the coach is just so bad that the players are just like, I don't want to play for this bum. But now with Tim Skipper and Jerry Neuheisel, this UCLA team looks like a totally different squad. And you know what? Maybe they get absolutely shellacked against Northwestern next week. You know, that might happen. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. A letdown game after such a crazy high. But still, they got up and they beat Penn motherfucking State. Penn State. Yeah. Huge, program-altering win for UCLA. Good for them. Throw a party. Steaks for everybody. Yeah. Moving on to the Nittany Lions. The James Franklin era is over. Last week I said that they're not a serious team and they'll never get over the hump with James Franklin. And Drew Aller is not a serious QB and they're a fraud. Well, God, my throat is killing me. Well, even I didn't think it was going to get that bad. Holy crap, man. Penn State, what is you doing, baby? Losing to UCLA? UCLA? What? Motherfucker, you should blow them out. You out recruit them by like 50 places. What? They're a bottom feeder. I had them pegged to win like 2 games this year. UCLA is less talented in every position, or so we thought. Man, James Franklin, it might be time to go somewhere else. To just negotiate a smaller buyout, have Penn State buy out like 25 of your $56 million and go somewhere else for a change of scenery, because it ain't working, man. The era of, Penn State is almost there, he just needs to get the right guys, or blah, blah, that's done. No, you're out of chances. Penn State, your playoff chances are done. You ain't winning the Big Ten this year. Seeing how you were against UCLA, I think you're lucky if you win 9 games. Seriously. You got to play Indiana, Michigan State, Nebraska, Ohio State. You're gonna beat, and Iowa. What am I saying? And Iowa. Are you going to beat all 5 of those teams? You're going to keep winning? No. This team, the way they played, is going to get smoked by Indiana. Ohio State is going to be styling on them. Oh, yeah. And That Nebraska game, don't sleep on that game. Do not sleep on that game. You give Dylan Raiola a chance, he will pick you the hell apart. Yeah. I saw what happened against UCLA. Dylan Raiola can do half of that, maybe. But Penn State, you are not winning 10 games. You ain't winning out. You dropped against UCLA, who's bad. Bad. Yeah, so this is done. The only way this works for James Franklin is if he scraps the entire staff. Everybody. Maybe you keep Jim Knowles because Jim Knowles' defense usually takes more than one offseason to install. It's complicated. It's a lot of positionless players and a lot of crazy blitz concepts. So maybe you keep the defensive staff, but you fire the entire offensive staff. Wide receivers coach, O-line, running backs, tight ends, offensive coordinator, everybody. You even fire the assistants to the assistants. Fire everybody. You have to change your entire fucking philosophy. Whatever Penn State is right now is done. You got to pick what you want to be. You want to be a high-flying offense? Hire someone who can do that. You want to be a team that runs the ball and chews clock? Hire someone who can do that. Go and find an offense that will give you an identity that'll make you good at something no matter what. That's the only way this works. Find your bread and butter, because right now I don't know what Penn State's good at. They don't run the ball well. They don't pass the ball well. They're not good in the trenches. They're inconsistent. They're downright bad at wide receiver. They're not Michigan bad, but for like playoff team consideration, they're mediocre at wide receiver. And we all thought that they fixed that in the portal. They didn't. Their wide receivers are bad, and their tight ends are worse. Tyler Warren ain't coming through the door. You ain't got Tyler Warren this year. Drew Aller obviously can't help you. He can't help you. If Katron Allen and Nick Singleton aren't balling, he can't help you. And even if they are, he still can't help you. Yeah. Fire the entire staff. Fire the entire offensive staff. It's the only way, because for Franklin, you have to tear this thing down to the bones, and that next team has to win everything in 26. Because the way things are going, you're going to win 8 games this year, maybe 7 if things get really dire. And then you fire the staff. And if that staff doesn't win 11 games and go deep into the playoffs, Penn State's going to fire you. They'll say, you know what? $47 million buyout is something we're just going to have to do because this isn't sustainable. You got one chance. Penn State, you got one bullet in the chamber because you are what you are this season. You ain't changing the fact that you can't run the ball, you can't throw the ball, you're just iffy on defense, and your quarterback looks like he's shitting his pants every play. Yeah, you can't change that. You're not like freaking Texas Arch Manning in dire straits right now, but you are what you are. You are a middling offense with a sneaky defense and a head coach who cannot rise to the occasion. So you are what you are. You're going to have to win 7-8 games, go to the ReliaQuest Bowl, and bludgeon a mid-tier SEC team. That's what you got to do this year. You got to do that. You're probably going to drop Indiana, Ohio State. That gets you 4 losses. Maybe you also drop Nebraska. Okay. From there, you got to shake it off, retool the staff, get an actual quarterback because Drew Aller isn't that guy. He's just not that guy. Maybe in another situation with a better coach he could be, but he's just not. So get a new QB, get a new offensive staff, get an identity that actually is something, and bounce back in 26. That's the only way. And if you don't, well, James Franklin, it was fun, it was cool, but you got to go somewhere else. Because Penn State, their fans pay too much money, they have too many resources, they recruit too well to be like this. To lose to 0-4 UCLA. It can't be done. So you got to get better. But for right now, what is Penn State's next game? I think their next game is at Iowa. Let's look. Because whatever their next game is, they got to win. And that game's got to be pretty decisive. You have got to win that game. You can't just like lollygag and hope you get it out 24-22. All right, the next game next week is against Northwestern at home. Thrash them. 31-10 with 7 of that 10 coming in garbage time. You have got to thrash Northwestern. If Northwestern is even close, you're in trouble because the game after that you have to go to freaking Kenneck. And I know their offense is still kind of iffy at Iowa, but that Mark Gronowski kid, he can throw the ball if you give him a chance. Iowa has a quarterback this year. The rest of their offense is challenged, but they have an actual QB this year. And that defense under Phil Parker is always good. So if you have a shaky performance, even if you win against Northwestern and you go to Iowa, you're going to lose. And if you do that, guess what the next game is on the 1st of November? Iowa State. In the shoe, you lose. Okay, keeping this going, you've now had a shaky game against Northwestern. You've lost to Iowa and Ohio State. Well, for your troubles, the next week, you get to play Indiana at home. You lose. Because unlike James Franklin, Coach Kursignetti, he wins. Google him. Then you got a get-right game against Michigan State. Aiden Childs is just not a good QB. They're not ready yet. But then you have to welcome Nebraska on the 22nd of November. Do you win? Do you lose? Maybe. I don't like your chances if you've dropped Indiana, Iowa, Ohio State. And then you got Rutgers. You probably win that game. But think about that. That's 5 losses. You got 7-5. You are limping into the postseason. And Drew Aller probably opts out. Nick Singleton, K.H. Allen opting out. Guys like Dennis Sutton on defense, opting out. Have fun winning the ReliaQuest Bowl without your best players. So you got to come out against Northwestern and absolutely thrash them and put this shit to bed. We are Penn State. We're going to win 10 games. See what we can do when we're refocused. That's what Northwestern's got to be. But I digress. Knowing James Franklin, they're going to have a middling start, limp their way through Northwestern, have a freaky game against Iowa, and then get absolutely blasted by Ohio State. That's likely what's going to happen. All right. Moving on from Penn State and all of that foolishness. Michigan versus Wisconsin. Michigan welcomed the Badgers into the Big House for the homecoming game. Big noon kickoff was there. Michigan won 24-10. Game was 10-7 at halftime, and it was disappointing. I'm going to only spend like 30 seconds on Samaj Morgan because it's worth talking about. He had 2 horrible drops in the first half, and there was a one run where he just zero effort. Totally loafing out there in pass blocking. Where Justice Haynes, it's a stretch run to the right. Haynes is broken out into the open field. Instead of trying to block his dude out of the way, Samaj just kind of stands there and Justice Haynes gets tackled. Could have been 30 more yards, maybe even a touchdown, but Samaj, he loafed. And on those 2 drops, Samaj Morgan should be a running back. He's not a wide receiver. He can do a bubble screen, but he can't run actual routes and catch the ball. He drops them every time. And it's to the point where Michigan cannot afford to keep giving him touches. They just can't. You can't have him just be the bubble screen guy. So that's all I'm saying about Samaj Morgan. On a more positive note, because I was told over the weekend that I need to be more positive, and I'm not even going to mention who said that to me, but it was somebody at the game. It was hilarious. Donovan McCauley had 116, I think it was 116, 112 receiving yards. 100-yard receivers, they are possible, ladies and gentlemen. Michigan is allowed to have a 100-yard receiver. It's allowed. I didn't know it was allowed. Maybe Congress passed a new law that gave Michigan permission to have a 100-yard receiver. But Donovan, mother-loving McCauley was a beast. He had a catch in the first half that went for a whole bunch of yards after catch, broke a couple tackles. He had an insane circus catch on the sideline. He had another play where the first play of the game, he drew a great pass interference. So, Donovan McCauley, bravo, you have arrived. You are officially Michigan's number one receiver. Dude is awesome. And as if that wasn't great enough, Andrew Marsh. Welcome to the party, kid. You had a great kick return. You ran a great route in the first half. You had a circus catch. You had a great bubble screen. Andrew Marsh, no drops, good route running. He didn't make any mistakes. Michigan might have a number 2 receiver. And then the tight ends were the tight ends. They were still good. Fullback Ben Bredesen, Bredesen, the fullback Bredesen. I think it's Ben Bredesen. He had a drop, but he's a fullback. Ball was thrown really freaking hard, which I'll get to that in a second. But he dropped one, but he's a fullback, so you kind of discount those. Now, Bryce Underwood. The kid is playing better. He was managing the offense really well. He was going through his reads. But man, this kid has got to pull some zip off of some of those throws. Now, you can't fix that during the season. That's an off-season thing. But man, he's got all the arm strength in the freaking world, and he just uses it all the time. Now, he did throw some really layered throws, and he had some really good deep shots and some really good play actions where he was running to the sideline and he threw. But he also had a couple where he just fired in on a short route. You're like, bro, you don't need to throw it that hard. And one of those was to Samaj, and he dropped it. And you know what? So for Samaj, that is a point. That is something to point out. It was dropped. Now, it was still right in his hands. But Underwood, he played a good game. It wasn't a great game. It was a good game. He had 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, I think. Didn't turn the ball over. He only got sacked like once or twice. Now, there were other negatives, though. Kendrick Bell. Oh, my God. All week it was like, maybe we need to get Kendrick Bell in the game. Maybe he can catch some balls. You had one shot. It was wide open. There were 31 yards down the field where you could run. Dropped it. Right in your hands. Dropped it. That was the first and last time we saw him in that game. So that was unacceptable. Kid, you got to get better arms. You've been around since Jim Harbaugh was the head coach. You're not new. You've been around since like 2020... 2023, 2022, maybe. So you've been around, so you should be better than that. Offensive line. Wisconsin absolutely pushed around the right side of Michigan's offensive line. And it got to the point where Andrew Sprague was just bullied. So not Blake Frazier, Brady Norton. Brady Norton ended up taking over at the right tackle spot. And he kind of stabilized it a little bit, but the Michigan O-line's got to get better. Got to get better because Wisconsin's got a good rush defense. I don't think they're the number 1 in the country, but that was bad. Michigan's O-line was pushed around. And against a team that had a competent offense, Michigan loses that game maybe. Now, here's what I'm going to say about Wisconsin. I got to look up their quarterback's name. Excuse me. Because their quarterback is their third string, mind you. Because Billy Edwards is hurt, Danny O'Neal is mid and he can't throw, and he's also hurt. And they had this kid named, what was his name? Hunter Simmons. He went 18 of 29 for 177 and a pick. If you're Luke Fickell, Hunter Simmons needs to be... Bumped my mic there. Hunter Simmons needs to be the starting QB. And ask Wisconsin fans, they'll say the same thing. Hunter Simmons played good. He helped move the Michigan offense right down the field in the opening drive. And now, I know, opening drives are always... They're always scripted, so they're kind of artificial. But he operated the offense in the first half really well. Now, Michigan's defense was kind of clamps in the second half. Really got after him, but he played a good game. It was a gutsy game. He didn't make too many bad decisions. Rod Moore had an insanely impressive pick that was kind of sort of pass interference from another player. But still, Hunter Simmons should be the quarterback. Now, Luke Fickell. You waved the white flag, man. There were 5 minutes left in the game. You were down 14 points. The game was still in play. You were in it. You had a chance if you got the ball back. You didn't call a timeout. You let Michigan march right down the field and run the clock out. You had 3 timeouts and you didn't call them ever. You had Michigan on a 3rd and short. You didn't call a timeout. Over and over and over, you didn't call a timeout. And even as a Michigan fan, that is inexcusable. If you don't want to try to win, you shouldn't be the head coach of a major college football program. Too much money is spent. The players play too fucking hard. The fans pay too much money for you to just give up with 5 minutes to go. And yeah, your team wasn't going to win. And yeah, you were outclassed at every position, including head coach. But you still have to try to win. You play to win the game. Forget who quoted that. That's kind of a meme quote, but it's true. You play to win the game. If you don't want to win, don't be a head coach anymore. Absolutely pathetic decision not to call timeouts and just to capitulate to Michigan. I was happy because it's like, yeah, cool, Michigan's going to get out of here with a 24-10 win. But as a fan of college football, how dare you, man? You just gave up on those players. You let them get embarrassed. What are you doing? It's just unacceptable. And if that's his demeanor as Penn State as Wisconsin head coach, then I feel sorry for Badgers fans because his buyout is $70 million. He ain't going anywhere for the next 2 or 3 years. So Wisconsin fans, I'm sorry. You're stuck with this guy. If he's not serious about winning, I'm sorry, because the next couple years are going to be bad. Poor clock management, left all the timeouts on the board, unenthusiastic play from a lot of positions. It was bad. Bad. Let me take another drink. All right, now, moving on from last week, let's look forward a little bit. Number 1 Ohio State is going to Champaign, Illinois, to play number 17 Illinois for the Illabuck Trophy. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that there was a trophy game between Ohio State and Illinois, but there is. It's called the Illabuck. And Ohio State always wins. They hold the Illabuck. It's much like the little brown jug between Michigan and Minnesota. There's a game, but one team wins it more than the other. So, if you're Illinois, you want a good showing in this game. You're not going to win. That Ohio State defense is disgusting. They're filthy. They just don't allow anyone to do anything. It's impressive. I'm not a fan of Matt Patricia, and I think that team is going to be kind of exposed when a truly elite offense plays them. But right now, that Ohio State offense is playing out of their damn minds right now. It is crazy how well the Ohio State defense is playing right now. So, if you're Illinois, you want a good showing. It's about all you can ask for is a good showing. But man, that I'm anticipating this game is going to be like 38-7 maybe. I think it's going to be bad. But if you're Illinois, you want a good showing. Now, if you're Ohio State, you want to keep the good vibes from the Minnesota game going because you had a great win, like 42-3 over Minnesota. You want to keep those good vibes going and keep the offense because Julian Sand really had a good showing against Minnesota. You want to keep those good vibes going. You do not want to fall into the trap because the next game after Illinois for Ohio State is... Who is it? I think it's someone good, but don't quote me on that until I find out. Their next game, if it will load... Oh, they're playing Wisconsin. Never mind. You can take Illinois lightly because you got Wisconsin the week after that. Now, the week after that, though, Penn State. But yeah, for Ohio State, you need to win because keep the good vibes going, execute the ball well, execute well, win the game. Now, number 8 Alabama is taking on number 14 Mizzou in Missouri. Can Alabama string 2 ranked wins together and keep the momentum going? Or is Mizzou going to win another game? Mizzou is like a thing this year. We got to pay attention to Mizzou. They're really good. They got like 5 wins this year. So I'm happy for Mizzou because Mizzou hasn't been good since frickin' forever. I was a teenager the last time Mizzou was good. So that I'm secretly kind of pulling for Mizzou because they're like the most Big Ten SEC team ever. But that I think Bama's going to win, even though it's in Mizzou. I think they're going to beat Missouri. And that's going to be a cool game because that's kind of a clash of styles kind of game where Bama, they finally got the passing game going for that game. So I really want to see how Mizzou handles the Bama offense because Ty Simpson had an incredible game against Vanderbilt. He had a great game in the previous game. He's really been able to tie the results together for a couple of games now. So I want to see how if Kalen DeBoer has kind of turned the corner and figured this thing out, or if this is just kind of a flash in the pan where they're just kind of going to revert to the early season mean. We'll see. Number 7, Indiana is going to number 3, Oregon. Boy, man, if you're Indiana, you want to win this game. Plain and simple. If you beat the Oregon Ducks, holy crap, we're going to be like, oh, wow. Indiana's like for real this year. Fernando Mendoza, their quarterback, is still just balling out of his mind. And their defense is still nasty, and they've still got tons of underrated playmakers. They're still nasty. And if you're Oregon, you're riding high off of Penn State. You got all the momentum. You're undefeated. This, in hindsight, might be a tougher test because Penn State is kind of a fraud. So for the Ducks, you're at home, win that game, and really stake your claim as the kings of the Big Ten. That's the key. Because if Oregon drops to Indiana, then it's like, oh boy, is the Big Ten kind of mid this year? Is anybody good? You know? So this next one's interesting. Number 6 Oklahoma taking on unranked Texas in the Red River Shootout. And at the beginning of the year, this was like, oh my God, Arch Manning versus John Matier, Heisman favorite versus Heisman favorite. Lol. God, my throat is killing me. My voice is failing me. Well, John Matier is out. He broke a bone in his hand. He had surgery. He's going to miss the game. And Arch Manning is mid. So that's kind of a disappointment. But Oklahoma's backup QB looks to be pretty solid. And if you're Steve Sarkisian, goddamn, you need this Red River game. If you lose to Oklahoma, who has a backup QB, after losing to Florida and Ohio State, it's like, my God, Sark, what are you doing, man? Now, for Sark, their offensive line is kind of shaky. They don't really do a lot super well on offense because Arch Manning is kind of mid. So, I'm expecting that Oklahoma defense to just bully Texas. I mean, they sacked Auburn's QB like 11,000 times, and they had Bryce Underwood running for his life, just running all over the place trying to escape the pass rush, and they got him like 6 times. He hasn't been sacked that many times collectively in every other game he's played at Michigan. So that defense at Oklahoma is nasty. And if you're Texas, it might be bad. Now I'm expecting a low-scoring, exciting game with middling QB play. But I am expecting Oklahoma and their backup QB to win. But man, if you're Texas, you need this one. You need it. Oh, Longhorns fans, if you lose this game even though Oklahoma has no John Matier, shoot, man. Sorry, drink another water because my throat is killing me. And the last game I want to talk about, Michigan, number 15 Michigan taking on the USC Trojans in California. This is a game at the beginning of the year, much like the Oklahoma game, I circled as a Michigan loss. Right now, my Michigan predictions at the beginning of the year have been 100% accurate. I predicted all the games so far correctly for Michigan. And I am predicting that Michigan is going to lose this game. Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver from USC, is an absolute dog. He is so good. He had like 15 catches or something crazy against Illinois. Not this last weekend, but the weekend before. And he played out of his mind. And their QB, who was their QB? Jaden Mayava. He's playing so well. He's got 1,587 yards, 11 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. He's balling. No other way to put it. He's balling. He's playing so good right now. And if you're USC, you've got to be excited because the defense is the defense is soft. I'm just going to say it. You got absolutely bullied by Illinois. A team that wanted to run the ball, you got bullied. Maybe Michigan bullies USC. But Mekhi Lemon, 589 yards on 35 catches. He's got 5 touchdowns. They've got a killer wide receiver. And, man, that USC team they're kind of scary. And especially because it's going to be a Big Ten team going over to 3 time zones or whatever. That's kind of spooky vibes. Now, if you're Michigan, Donovan McCulley has 309 yards receiving on 19 catches and a touchdown. Dude is, if you're USC, you got to pay attention to him because if you give him single coverage, he's gonna moss some guys. He's gonna get his. And the bigger threat, if you're USC, Justice Haynes. He leads the Big Ten in rushing. He has 654 yards rushing on only 85 carries. Now, that means he is averaging 4 divided by 85. He is averaging 7.69 yards per carry and has 8 rushing touchdowns on the season. If you let Michigan run wild, you will lose in a blowout. You have got to stop Justice Haynes. Stop Justice Haynes, get a lead early, make Bryce Underwood throw to get Michigan back in the game. That's the only way you beat Michigan. Because Michigan's going to run the ball. And if you let them play their game and drag you into the mud, they'll beat you. Now, if you're Michigan, you got to get after Jaden Mayava. You got to get at least 1 interception, probably 2 out of him. You got to keep him under 250 passing yards. He's going to get his. Mekhi Lemon, you got to keep him probably under 100. He's going to get his touches. He's going to get a touchdown probably, but you got to keep them under a certain amount. You got to contain them a little bit. You're not going to shut them down. You're not going to have Mekhi Lemon getting like 4 catches, 26 yards. That ain't a possibility. Not with this Michigan defense, with how young they are. But if you can kind of contain the USC offense and you can run the ball effectively, you'll win. But I am predicting a Michigan loss to USC. Now, I think it'll be close, but I think it'll be one of those games where Michigan, much like against Oklahoma, is just chasing the whole way. I think it's going to be probably 28-23. One of those kind of games where it's just Michigan's in it, but not really kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be like Bryce Underwood threw 3 picks. No, I think it's just going to be USC was just explosive on offense and Michigan couldn't keep up. I'm excited, though. I mean, who doesn't want to see Michigan taking on USC like in the freaking Coliseum? That's freaking awesome. Game's a night game. Well, for them it's like a mid-afternoon game, but for us it's a night game. It's at like 7:30. So that's going to be, I can't wait. I think it's going to be so cool. It's one of those, it's a helmet game. You know, classic uniforms. I wish Michigan could wear their home uniforms. So you could have like the red and the yellow versus the blue. Ugh, it looks so good. It's so awesome. So I'm looking at the 2025 Big Ten standings. I didn't realize that Michigan is currently 4th in the Big Ten. Cool. Anyway, that's where I'm going to wrap it up. I'm tired. My voice is shot to hell. It literally hurts to talk. So, for all of you listening on on Apple Podcasts and anywhere else that podcasts are available. Thank you. Please consider subscribing or following or leaving a review if you can. Leave a like if you can. For those of you watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get notifications, and feed the algorithm with a comment. Spread the word so we can keep on growing. Views have been up on the YouTube channel as of late, which has been awesome. Alright, next week is going to be a great week of college football. We're getting into the dog days where it's like now you start to learn who people really are. This is when it gets fun. You get the weird matchups and the spooky results and the cool. This is college football at its best. So, my name is H. James K. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time.